And it's Wednesday, January 3rd. This is an end of the day SPY recap. And today on the daily chart, we end up with a 2 down red day that followed through lower from the first day of the year and stayed below the midpoint of the prior day and closed red. Now, you'd look at this bar and say, oh, it was a pretty easy trade. That we, instead of gapping up, above the pre-market range, above the midpoint of yesterday and starting higher, we started lower instead, and it was an easy trade on the sell side. But if you look at the intraday price action, it was definitely a little tricky in the sense that it did start down, but then we had choppiness on the way up, and then it came down towards the end of the day, and I'll go over that in a second, what some of the opportunities were. In terms of the big picture, though, we definitely starting the year to the downside with a 2 down week. We talked about that possibility after looking at these 2 weeks to end the year being a little bit light on momentum, and then this failure looking bar potentially, and we start down right out of the gates, and now we're continuing lower. There's still a target here. There's still a fair value gap to fill in here. If I look at the daily chart, I'm still kind of looking at these two levels as an area to take out. Then there is a pivot machine gun here on the daily chart if you want to start really building up momentum downside. I don't know if that's going to happen, but all I know is for things to reverse up, and that even started from today, you're going to have to get above the midpoint of a daily chart and start higher and get above the pre-market highs and everything else. And until that happens, we have a purple line here, which is the open of the year and open of the month. And as long as we stay below there, we're starting down to start the new year. And on the monthly chart, you could even see while this green bar is an inside bar, and I do expect it to take out those highs at some point, we are red and starting lower. So, this is the yearly chart. I mean, so at any, just like here, when we started red, we eventually, we ended red, we started green and started up all year. Here we were starting red, and who knows if this is going to go red all year long. I mean, I don't anticipate that. I'm still waiting for a good reversal to the upside, but I'm going to let price action lead the way, and it didn't do it today. So in terms of the actual S&P index, there was a good opening trade here to sell, out of the gates, below the pre-market lows, below the first bar low. That did get you down here for a nice, morning trade. There was a secondary attempt here that I guess if you would have taken it or try to hold on to take out those lows on a second move, it did fail and then started up. So either you're exiting that first trade over here, or if you took a secondary trade, it's a small loss in here. I then shot 2 videos. You can go back and look at how I bought puts here and scaled out and set up a no-risk trade. I was able to take a small gain when I had an algorithmic kind of move to take out stops, and then I re-entered here, and obviously we came all the way down and closed very nicely to the downside, taking out the intraday lows, which I was always looking for starting from here. Ideally, even when I took this trade, I knew that we hadn't taken out that high, but we did kind of get to the midpoint of that selling tail. So I thought this inside bar and going down was a good opportunity. And fortunately, I was able to scale out and set up a no-risk trade and take a small gain before re-entering and doing well on the final trade to the downside. So it was one of those days where you just kind of had to use structure. Again, when I see us down near the bottom of the pre-market range, not getting above the really intraday high that occurs early, and we're not getting a directional day, I kind of know that in an overall downtrend, you're taking out liquidity to the upside before going lower. And that's why I was kind of looking for these kind of moves. Once I saw that this initial push down didn't really continue, I was looking for liquidity to the upside to sell. Never biased to the upside at all, because we were below the midpoint of the prior day, and we really were nowhere near, above the first bar high, or in this case, the third, the little high here early in the session. So it was a bias down all day, but, it was one of those things where, given the way, price action sometimes unfolds, you have to look for liquidity to be taken out of the upside before resuming the downtrend. So we will see where things end up. We were expecting a little fall through lower. This target's down here, and we'll see what develops. I can quickly discuss. There was some other trade. If I just go to the board, I mean, what I did today, there were actually a lot of things. I traded right out of the gates. I actually traded Microsoft. I did that before this 15-minute bar closes on an aggressive attempt, just in case we were going higher, and then I was able to take a small gain there. And then what did I do? I think I went to Tesla right out of the gates, and I was able, while the market was going down, I decided to trade Tesla, and I exited most of the trade down here. And, fortunately, that was a good exit, area, as it just kind of then it consolidated a little bit here, never really broke down for a second push to the intraday lows. mRNA, once I saw the market maybe failing to make a second move down, and knowing this is a stock I want to buy, I think there'll be follow through from yesterday. I did buy a trade here, bought, and I scaled out, and then I was able to take small gains in here and never really followed through above the highs of the day. So these were the type of things that were all over the place. And then eventually I went back to the SPY and I was buying puts on that twice. So, overall, decent day of trading. It was very, choppy. There were some things that were up, some things that were down. Again, mostly it was a negative bias. And we'll see. I expect, until proven otherwise. Look, we can gap up tomorrow above the midpoint of the day. It's an actionable signal to the upside. It'll turn the year and everything else green if we get above that purple line. So anything to the upside, I'm certainly excited to take, but I'm going to let price action lead the way. Until that, I'm expecting to kind of take out liquidity down here, and then I want to see how these how the daily bar, possibly follows through lower or not as the week goes on.